Power of ERDC. I'm your host, Tim Reeves. As the Department of War increases its focus on the Arctic, ensuring our forces can operate effectively in one of the world's harshest environments has become a priority. From energy and infrastructure to the simple challenge of keeping equipment from freezing, the demands of this region require new and creative solutions, one of which is the Mobile Insulation System for Energy Reduction, or MISR. Joining us to discuss this technology is Justine Yu, a research architect with ERDC's Construction Engineering Research Laboratory. She is also co-lead of the Arctic Infrastructure Research Group. For the past 6 years, this group of Department of War engineers and scientists has come together to confront the unique challenges of operating in the Arctic. So with that, Justine, welcome to the Power of ERDC podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I promise I will ask questions far cleaner than I read that. And you would think somebody would have written that, and I did. So welcome. And as for our viewers and listeners may notice, we are in a new set for this podcast as part of a series we're doing at RD26, which is an event twice a year to bring all of ERDC's engineers and scientists together to Vicksburg, Mississippi. And so we're doing this in the atrium. So you may hear some noise and hopefully nothing off-putting as far as in the background. So so it should be good. So let's start off by the Arctic Infrastructure Research Group. What is that? Who is a part of that, and how did that group kind of come together?
Sure. The Arctic Infrastructure Research Group, or AIRG for short. I promise I'm not a pirate. It does sound like it.
It does need ARG.
Yes, so it's a grassroots initiative that was started by ERDC, Searle, and Krell, as well as individuals from Nord-Northcom. And it's used as a forum to discuss challenges and solutions for that harsh Arctic environment. It consists of folks across the Department of War, and it's a multi-service, multidisciplinary group, and even end users like from the 11th Airborne, who are the Arctic Angels.
Well, that's a good name.
Yeah, I know, they have a great name. They're also involved in the discussions.
So give us an example of this collaboration. You mentioned it's other agencies within the Department of War coming together. I think the conversation I had one time, I said y'all meet regularly to kind of discuss things. How has this collaboration led to more efficient solutions to kind of a shared problem in the Arctic?
Sure. So the topics we usually go towards are expeditionary infrastructure, power and energy, and water and wastewater. And each month we meet and have a special topic that we go over. And that allows for the principal investigator that shared that topic to get feedback, whether it's strategic, operational, tactical. The diverse team gives a lot of different perspectives. And then we're able to either collaborate across the services. If another service is very interested in the technology, there's potential for some collaboration there with that research and development, as well as potential advocacy from Nord-Northcom or the 11th Airborne themselves to really push that technology forward and get some great feedback.
So, and I'll ask you something off of that. As this group has come together over the past couple of years, have you seen like a level of increase of interest of challenges because we're needing to operate more in that region? Have you seen kind of that? Has business picked up? I guess is that?
Yeah, I'd say it's been picking up more lately. It kind of ebbs and flows whenever there's a push for more diverse, innovative solutions, or a change in like the 11th Airborne. Sometimes they're coming in and out depending on what their mission sets are. So we find that that happens, as well as we try to get together. So we try to have a summit every 2 years at Nord-Northcom in Colorado, and sometimes when that happens, we get an influx of people really interested in going to Colorado.
So this is sort of like a therapy group coming together. Like this is the Arctic therapy group, yeah. So this sounds like a perfect lead into MISR technology. For the audience, can you kind of describe what MISR is?
Yeah.
And what was the idea behind its creation, sort of the back of the napkin story?
Yeah, so essentially the miser is a blanket, and it was developed by our SIBR partner. A SIBR is Small Business Innovative Research, and it augments existing military systems. It allows it to operate at lower temperatures, lower than -25 degrees, and then sustain that temperature inside. So rather than recreating whatever that need is, so for instance, the refrigerator unit, instead of recreating the wheel, we're able to just add a kit and applique kind of technology that we don't have to reinvent it. We just add on something to make it work.
It seems counterintuitive that in one of the demonstrations recently, it was Miser being deployed with the 11th Airborne to make a refrigeration system run efficiently. You would think it's kind of, to me, and then again, I'm not an architect, an engineer, or scientist, right?
Yeah.
So that if you're putting a refrigeration system in cold, it doesn't need a blanket, but
it does.
It does, right?
Yeah.
Why would it need to?
It's just sustaining that temperature that you need inside. So we're heating on the move with that demonstration we did in February.
Right.
Putting the Metrix, which is a refrigerator, expeditionary refrigerator, putting the miser on there and allowing it to be put on a vehicle and moved around is really essential for that force to be able to take less time. Getting it ready, putting a blanket on, we just put it on the unit or on the vehicle and go.
So let's talk about that demonstration.
Sure.
So it was with the 11th Airborne Division, the Arctic Angels, as we said earlier, in Alaska. Tell us about that demonstration, how y'all kind of got together with that division, and what were some of the problems that Miser did help. We kind of alluded to like helping it run, but go more detail.
Yeah. So we were able to use it on the Metrix, which does the supply runs. Without the miser, they aren't able to use the Metrix at all. They actually contract 40-foot containers that have to have civilians come in and off in the exercises, which isn't realistic for if the balloon actually goes up.
Right, in combat situations, you're not calling any.
Yeah, you're not calling a contractor to be like, hey, bring me food.
Right.
So they really need to have a self-sustaining unit that can be able to move when they do the supply runs. We worked with culinary specialists, and we were able to train them on how to put the miser on, and we were able to observe how they did that, find some areas where there could be some more improvement on the miser. And then we also did the transport test to show that it can be put on the unit while in transit. And we went around the base at Fort Wainwright, and we actually got up to 37 miles per hour, which is really great on an installation.
Right.
And yeah, so the areas of improvement, just observing some of the warfighters like taking it off or putting it on, or maybe there should be a strap here or reinforcement here, allowed us to do that.
Let's talk about more about the miser itself. We talked about a blanket, and this is the Metrix is like you said, a large container, stores logistical needs, food and whatever the case would be in a sustained temperature. And I would think if it gets too cold, it wouldn't operate. These are powered by generators.
Yep, on board.
So I guess the miser helps also allow that generator to run more efficiently.
Exactly.
Because if it gets too cold, from the earlier conversation, again, makes no sense to me, right? But if it gets too cold, that generator cannot operate. She just allows it to continue to operate when needed.
That's correct. So the onboard generator, it just runs when it needs to put some more conditioning in the unit.
Right.
The miser being a blanket, it just allows that heat transfer to happen less often and less power.
So you mentioned some of the improvements. You said, we said it was able to successfully do the job and that kind of stuff. Go dig a little bit deeper into that soldier touch point portion of it. That, as people who design this and study this and research the effectiveness of it, I guess that having that soldier touch point makes all the difference in the world.
It really does. So this was actually the second prototype for the miser Metrix. Our first miser Metrix was more stationary. It had a vestibule on the mechanical end for the operators to be able to maintain that equipment. However, the 11th Airborne, when they used that initially, it was too stationary. It took too long for us to be able to put the miser on. We needed to put it on the vehicle, and it was just too much. So that feedback, they loved it. It worked, but having it, the vestibule
It wasn't good for a mobile.
mobile, yeah.
It didn't live up to the mobile part.
It did not. It did not. So this iteration, we canned the vestibule because it didn't work out, and we really focused on that expeditionary, the mobile piece.
So you mentioned in our earlier conversation that it's not the first miser. We talked about the changes to it and the feedback. So as you are watching them put this on,
Yeah.
I think what are some other lessons that from the second version to the third version? And I know we're going to discuss too. Maybe it's getting close to deployment with units in the Army. What are some things you saw as they were doing it that as someone who doesn't have to put this on in a combat environment or in a logistical support environment, what are some things you saw and learned?
I think there's so many things because from understanding that we needed bigger zippers because they were using gloves to put the miser on. I think one of the biggest lessons this last time in February was, oh, well, you know what? We can actually just leave the miser on from October to April, and we don't have to take it on or put it on in these harsh environments. We can actually put it on in the motor pool and then just leave it and not have to worry about that interaction with it, which was a great point for us because training the soldiers was great. They put it on in 80 minutes. They barely used our instruction sheet. We realized that our instruction sheet, it was like a Lego style manual. They didn't look at it. They just did.
This is leading into a man joke, right? Like we don't read instructions. Is that where we're going with this?
I didn't want to go there, but yeah.
It's a fair shot. I got you.
Yes.
So
realizing that they didn't use that instruction, we wanted to make sure that they can see on what we call the raincoat, which is the covering that goes over the rigid foam layer, the panel layer. We wanted to put instructions on it instead. So that was a big learning point as well.
So I may jump ahead for just a second, but so as you have seen this blanket, this miser go for one, how close is it to being adopted by the airborne and other military units? I mean,
we're so close.
Because one of the big things for ERDC is we don't just do the research and keep it to ourselves. We transition that. Same thing with a technology like this. Our goal is to transition as quickly as possible to those who need it. So how close is it to for us?
We're like months away, literally, for being able to field it to the warfighter. The warfighter can actually purchase these with the funding pots that they have and in a quantity that they need. So we're working with our acquisition partner. It's a product manager for sustainment systems to put the miser as a additional authorized item on the metrics. So it was easy for us to do that because it's just an add-on kit. We didn't have to go through the rigmarole of creating a whole tech manual. We're just editing their documentation to allow the warfighter to get access to it.
And I'll ask you the personal question as someone who has seeing this as this challenge, you have the solution. How exciting for you as a researcher to see this possibly getting to the not say finish line, but actually being used.
To field something to the warfighter was a huge accomplishment and something that I can say that I can retire. Not that I won't retire right today. Yeah. So I still have some years left, but it was really an accomplishment that I said I got something in the hands of the warfighter and they can get it when they need it.
So while used in Alaska for the refrigerated units, miser has more uses. Where else and how else have you and your team deployed the tested miser?
Yeah.
And what are some of the advantages the system has shown it can provide units operating in austere environments?
Yeah, so the miser could really go on any existing material. Rigid wall, could be some soft-walled opportunities, but we did demonstrate it on a force provider rigid wall shelter, and it had expandable walls, and we did a baseline. This was before the metrics miser was created. We did a baseline study where we had a force provider rigid wall shelter for billeting and then a force provider rigid wall shelter for admin. One had the miser, one did not. We found that in February, temperatures got as low as like 40. Our data monitoring system didn't work anymore.
40 below.
40 below.
By the way, that's not a real number, is it?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, 40 below. And we found that the one with the miser was able to keep a survivable temperature inside, whereas the one with the admin, without the miser, it it couldn't work anymore. We had to actually put more heating elements in there for it to sustain an internal temperature that was good.
So the one with the miser didn't require that additional.
No, it didn't.
Yeah.
No. And that was like an apples to oranges of data collection, but it still proved the system works.
So I guess it also proves, I guess, show that miser can also, the fuel consumption savings, the energy savings part of that, it was very applicable in that setting, primarily.
Yeah.
So now, is it? I guess we're talking only in the cold weather, but we've talked about the Arctic Infrastructure Research Group, but this is not just for cold weather.
It's not. No, you can actually use it in the desert, any extreme climates. It's just insulation, just like you would have on the exterior of your building. It just helps with preventing the temperature from going from either side of the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anywhere you need insulation, it's just additional, which is
okay.
great.
So we talked about the successful demonstration and deploying and getting it in the hands and so forth. So I guess that path, what are some future enhancements that based on those recent social touch points that you've had, what's kind of the path forward next for that, and what are some, I guess, version 3 and 4 or whatever?
Yeah, so the next step, we're actually talking with the medical community. They'd like to do some research and development on EMI shielding for their
and that stands for?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
No.
We're in the acronym business. Yeah.
I know. EMI, electromagnetic. Now I'm totally messing up.
Electromagnetic.
Yeah, that's it. Mitigation, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So I knew that, other than when I'm talking to you right now.
Right.
EMI, electromagnetic interference.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
So working with them to do some research and development on their shelter systems.
So that this, not just the heat and energy, but it could be.
Could be, yeah. It's actually, the rigid foam is in pockets in the panels, so you can really put whatever you want in pockets. Everybody loves pockets, so
right.
You can put whatever you need. Additional research and development needs to go into those other applications, but we can even look into survivability attributes and maybe ballistic protection potentially, but we would need to do a little bit more research on that.
But it's a nice vehicle for that.
It is
adaptability and
applique technology.
Right.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
That's right. Except for those who do.
Yeah, I mean, we do that too.
So back to the Arctic Infrastructure Research Group, the ARG, right?
Yeah.
As we get ready to close, but why is this collaboration? You're not the only one having tough time. The collaboration is so important today, and why now? Why is this work so important today?
We really need to do things faster, cheaper, better. I know that's not the first time you've heard that.
Yeah.
And working just in our little silos is really hard to find solutions that are not just a one-trick pony. Having this collaborative environment of knowledge sharing, we can work and talk across the services and understand where there's areas that we need improvement. All of us have infrastructure, all of us have power and energy, water and wastewater. In this harsh climate, we're not going to have the time or the money to not share.
Right.
So working together is really essential to being able to survive in that climate.
I guess it sort of like brings us back to RD26, a big collaborative thing where an event where you're bringing teams together and such. And you mentioned working with Krell, with this group.
Mm-hmm.
How much collaboration has gone into miser across ERDC, across the forces to kind of, you couldn't get it to where it is today as fast as y'all have.
Yeah, definitely not. Miser throughout the whole development and every single prototype has had individuals from Corel involved. Even the Navy has put a little bit of interest into the miser and using it for their own solutions. So just having the platform of the Arctic Infrastructure Research Group, it wouldn't have gotten a lot of visibility or feedback on how to make it better.
So I'll ask you the what's next question, and it's kind of open-ended, but miser by no means is at the finish line. But what are some other things that has your interest, has your want to work on moving forward?
Yeah, so that's a good question.
It's just today.
It's just today. Well, I think the miser is a great technology because it's not just a one-trick pony. It has a lot of applications. the Arctic Infrastructure Research Group, I think it will have longevity because there is a need for that collective data sharing, knowledge sharing platform. We always do special topics, and I welcome any federal employee that wants to join. Welcome to email me and join the group if there's interest, and
Sure.
hopefully hear some of the other innovative things that are out there.
Well, listen, I appreciate it. And to our audience, when we release this podcast, there's on the website, poweroferdictpodcast.org. We have a resources tab that'll have examples and pictures of Miser and the demonstration, and other resources that'll help better detail what we've tried to tell, verbally today without pictures or without, we don't have a Miser blanket sitting around.
Well, I'm a research architect, so visuals are always very important for me.
There you go. So we will have that at powerofverdictpodcast.org. And for those who have questions for Justine or for the group, you can email those to erdicinfo@usace.army.mil, and we'll make sure we get those to you and your team. And listen, thanks so much for doing this. I'm glad you came from Illinois to Vicksburg, Mississippi for this event. We had you in person, so that was always a benefit. So
happy to be here. Thank you.
Yes, please. To the audience, we will see you next time. Thank you.